Today we are going to look at a topic that is very hot in the world of Call of Duty. Skill-based matchmaking. And the basics are relatively simple. Skill-based matchmaking ensures that similarly good players end up in the same lobby. But how exactly does it work? And also, there are a lot of rumors and unanswered questions around it. For example, a pretty common claim is, whenever you have a good match, in the next one you get your ass kicked. So let's answer the most common questions. How strict is matchmaking in Call of Duty? How quickly does it react to changes? And are there certain limits? And that's all we want to clarify today, so let's get started. And first of all, we start with negative boosting. What does that mean? Basically, we try to perform badly on purpose so that our rank decreases. With that, we can then draw conclusions about how the skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty works. The first problem though, we have to measure somehow how the lobbies change. Otherwise, the whole test makes no sense. And for that, all modes are deactivated except for one, because it's the only one that allows us to measure the skill gap inside the lobby. And that's because this mode has a fixed time limit and a fixed score limit. As soon as one side has 100 kills, it's over. That means we share the same cake over and over again against a different group of players. This allows us to draw relatively good conclusions about how good we were compared to other players. Again, because the amount of kills is limited. Other than that, we need a little handicap. And what would be better than a deagle? And now to how we measure the skill change. The idea is I measure the time it takes me to do 10 kills. Then we do this over and over again and compare if the lobbies change at all and how fast. And in order to get the lobby to change, once I reach those 10 kills, I just start dying. So I just run into enemies, try to die as many times as possible, just so that the matchmaking thinks, what the hell is going on? He plays as usual, but he sucks. By the way, I dodged some maps.
No thanks.
I think you can relate. Now, what would we expect if matchmaking is very slow and relatively strict? We would expect it to go down continuously, but slowly. If the matchmaking, on the other hand, is very fast and strict, we would expect a straight line down to the bottom. And with everything set up, I went in and did just that. Did all the deagle kills as fast as possible, and then just goofed around a bit and tried to die as often as possible, but still put in a realistic performance so that matchmaking wouldn't notice that we were negatively boosting. So again, that means I really try to shoot people, just not lethal, and try to move as usual. So a bad performance, but a believable one. And that's also why I excluded some maps, because it's hard to get a measurable performance on a map where every single car can explode over and over again. And the result of the whole exercise is as follows. As you can see, the curve goes down, but it fluctuates a lot. And I noticed that myself. On one game, people were relatively good. On the next round, well, not at all. The round after had a pretty good lobby again, so it changes on a dime pretty much. But on average, the lobbies were getting worse and worse. And now comes the funny part. The part where I pick the best weapon available and, well, give it my best. The plan here is to get as many kills as possible in a very short time while maintaining a good KD. Now, I'm a very aggressive player, which means I don't like sitting around for getting the best KD, so I try to get a balance here. So I try to get as many kills as possible while still maintaining a pretty good KD. And different than before, kill streaks were allowed, gadgets were allowed, grenades were allowed, everything was allowed to get kills. The idea was very simple. Skill-based matchmaking should think again, like, what the hell is going on now? Then react to that change, and this allows us to draw conclusions again about how the whole thing works. So, let's take a look. Starting with games like 40 kills and more, that's a lot if you consider that in this game mode, only 100 kills are available. And in a team of 6, I almost did half of those. KD as well, with a KD of 3, that's a lot considering the aggressive playstyle, because in the Call of Duty that we have now, with the short time to kill, it's just, yeah, one wrong turn or somebody is sitting in a corner and you're dead. So it's pretty much impossible to not die in this game. So considering that, KD of 3 is pretty good. Then it went steadily down until I got to where I usually am, with around 25 kills on average and a 0.4-0.5 KD. But it took me 10 rounds to get there, and we have extreme fluctuations again. Now, of course, those changes can be influenced by the map and how you play and whatever, but it's way too consistent to just be that. And also, the higher I got in skill-based matchmaking, the more people were actually camping, like with whole teams, claymore setups, everything, which was sad and funny at the same time. So that could make it more difficult to get out with good stats. Nevertheless, you can clearly see that I was in lobbies that I was not supposed to be. But again, what is striking are the high fluctuations. So in one match, I dominated, in the next one, not so much. And that was in every test I made, in negative boosting, in skill-based matchmaking boosting, whatever I did, I had those fluctuations. Now on its own, that doesn't tell that much, but when we take the standard deviation into account, and don't worry, this will not evolve into a math class, just in short, it tells me how different the skill level was between the other players in the lobby. And when we look at that, we can see that the range is pretty large, which contradicts the assertion that matchmaking is very strict, because if it was, pretty much every player in the lobby should be equally skilled. But that wasn't the case. Skill levels were different each lobby, each game, with a lot of range. So what does that mean? It probably means that skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty is pretty loosely, like unranked modes have it in other games. And to explain that, we have to look at the classic rank distribution that pretty much every game has. Most people are somewhere in the middle, and on the outsides are the extremes. Standard distribution, to plague you with another WAF term. The problem with this strict matchmaking is basically you have people at the extremes, for example a master player, and you want to rank them against other master player. This can take very long, meaning long queue times, and that is something you don't want to have in a game like Call of Duty. But if you make it more generous, the whole system, then it can be that you as a gold player, you get everything from silver up to platinum. Meaning in one round, you might get only silver players against you and you dominate the lobby. In the next game, you play in a platinum lobby and well, you get dominated. But in terms of matchmaking, not much has changed. It was basically just bad luck. That could also explain the phenomenon that many experience, that when you get a good round, you get obliterated the next one. It is very likely based on the numbers that we have seen that it's simply bad luck, because the matchmaking, as you have seen, doesn't change that quickly. Even after I got 40 kills in a lobby where only 100 kills are available, it didn't change that much. Now, the matchmaking Call of Duty is not that fast to change lobbies that quickly, which again tells you that matchmaking is probably just very loose, meaning sometimes you end up in weaker lobbies, sometimes stronger ones, but on average, it's pretty balanced. It just doesn't seem that way because you remember the bad experience way longer than the good ones. That's just how we humans work. Then to another funny phenomenon that I noticed. If we assume that matchmaking is trying to push us to a KD of 1, that means 12 to 13 kills per round, because that will be average. Why can I, for example, now always perform with 24 kills and a KD of around 0.5, 0.4? Now, I'm not trying to flex here, that's not impressive, I know, but in my last 30 games, that's my average. And that's above the expected value, so why am I not climbing any further in matchmaking? We've already talked about the extremes. Now, it might be that Call of Duty basically said, we don't want those extremes because again, it takes too long to match them with other players, matchmaking and so on. So it could be that even if you climb on, for example, a master level, matchmaking will treat you as if you were a diamond player. And this way, the pool of players is again bigger. But how do we test that? Well, quite simply, by negative boosting again. So I did that once more after I had very good stats for 30 rounds in a row. So I should have climbed. And if the limit theory is true, then what we should see is no change at all for a couple of games, because, well, I have kind of a buffer before it starts declining again. And funny enough, that's what happened. At the beginning, the first 4 or 5 games, I hardly noticed the difference. The people were always good. I got brutally murdered with my deagle, but from then on, it declined the same as before, as you would expect. So it could be that there is just an artificial maximum. Now, confirming that would be a little easier if we had a pro of any kind, because, well, I'm not. I mean, I'm certainly not bad, but definitely not the best. That's why it would be interesting to test it on someone who is really at the top. But what I can say is I met a couple of famous streamers that are pretty famous and pretty good in Call of Duty. So if we get matched into the same lobby, I think really there is an artificial maximum. So let's answer the original questions before we then move on to a couple of tips on how to make your life easier with skill-based matchmaking. Now, is it strict? It doesn't seem to be. It seems to be very generous with the range of players that it selects. Is it fast, dynamic? Not really either. So it already takes a few games for small changes, because it's already shown in the example, it took 10 turns to put me back to where I belong. So that means if you have one good game, you're not automatically 3 divisions higher somehow. And are there any limits? There seems to be. I can hardly confirm that, but there seems to be one. So those are the results from that test. Now, I hear a lot of people that skill-based matchmaking sucks because you have to sweat every game. Now, take it from somebody who just, well, went through 50, 60 games with maximum tryhard mode. Basically, it's all up to you. Why are you playing Call of Duty is the main question here. Are you playing every single game with a win in mind, be the best? Then it's just like everywhere in life. If you want to win, you have to compete with a lot of other people who are also pretty good and also want to win, which, well, leads to sweaty games. But if you change your mindset and say, hey, I don't need to win every single game and I want to have some fun from time to time, or level up a shield or do nonsense or level a deagle, then you won't be near your maximum in terms of skill-based matchmaking. So if you want to perform, then you can. So that means my tip here is clearly your mindset. How do you approach the game? Do you want to be the very best? Then, well, it's like everywhere in life. Everybody wants to be the best. You have a lot of competition and good competition. But if you try to have fun and really try to have fun and ignore the stats and just do whatever is on your mind, it will be so chill. Even though I can say the grind to, well, get your shield to gold and plat, it sucks. But I think it was worth it. Looks pretty stylish. But that's all about the skill-based matchmaking analysis. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, don't forget to thumbs up, as it really helps the channel. Subscribe for more. Und alle Deutschen, das hier ist der englische Channel, Leute. Es gibt auch einen Deutschen. See you in the next one. Bye bye.